This is the Menopause Movement Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Gordon. Now, here at the Menopause Movement, we've surveyed over 50,000 menopausal women. And through this, we've discovered that the number one cause of menopausal suffering for our clients is weight gain. Now, you've said things like, how do I lose the menobelly? I don't recognize myself anymore. How can I get me back? When menopause hit me out of the blue, I had no idea what was happening. And when I gained about 50 pounds overnight, I hated what I saw in the mirror. The menopause movement exists to provide world-class transformational education to women who are suffering from the symptoms and effects of menopause. And we're here to give you the education you need to get your life back. We want menopause to be the best time of your life. I mean, it is for me, and I want that for you. After years of trial and error, I finally cracked the code with my menopause weight. And now I want to share with you how I did it. I realized that what helped me the most was a challenge. So we've created a challenge for you to help you lose your menobelly. Simply go to menopausemovement.com/challenge to sign up. I'll see you there. What's up, everyone? So excited to be here today with business coach Jackie Ghedine. If you've ever thought about starting your own business, or if you're an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur at heart, this episode is definitely for you. Jackie is a coach. She's co-host of the podcast Make Your Life Magnificent and co-founder and chief strategy officer of The Resting Mind, a business coaching and development company for GenerationX women. She is a certified life coach and trained at the Goal Imagery Institute, specializing in neuroscience and positive psychology. She's a TEDx talk presenter and has been featured on Today with Hoda and Jenna, Business Insider, and is a VIP expert at Fairy God Boss. Prior to becoming a coach, Jackie was associate publisher at Ad Age, where she was responsible for building new businesses, driving revenue, and leading a diverse team. During the podcast, we talk about how she got started in her business. Starting a new business in the second half of life, moving from learning to action, what failure is, celebrating success and how to do it, the 8% rule, the most important thing to work on for business success, how to find clarity in our lives, what is energy plotting and how to do it, money mindset, and stay to the end to find out the best way to put your education into action. At the end of the episode, visit menopausemovement.com/blog, where you can find the show notes plus the links to the books and resources mentioned in the episode. And if you enjoyed this episode, like and subscribe on YouTube, subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts, so you're always the first to know when each episode is released. If you haven't left a review yet for the podcast, please take the time to review. When you do so, more women can find it and get the help they need during the disruption of menopause, because no one should have to go it alone. Thanks again for being a part of the menopause movement. If you have any questions about this or any other podcast, I invite you to open a discussion with me on Instagram at Dr. Michelle Gordon, Dr. Michelle Gordon. Have a great day, everyone. And now let's get to Jackie. Jackie, welcome to the Menopause Movement Podcast. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thanks, Dr. G. I'm delighted to be talking with you today.
Yeah, this is awesome. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about, what you do and how you got started and where you were before, that kind of thing.
Sure. So I am a coach for Gen X women. So Gen X women are women who are 40 plus to about 55, but we range the gamut. And the real reason why we want to coach them with my business partner, Mimi Bishop, is because we are hearing over and over again women wake up and say, is this it, in their 40s? And I want to be there saying, like, this is it. I'm going to help you find your this is it. So we work with them as they want to up-level their career or as they want to start their entrepreneurial journey and help them really build their business from the ground up. We own a company called The Resting Mind, and it's a coaching and development company where we do trainings and workshops and one-on-one coaching to really amplify individuals. And I'm really passionate about it. I think women, especially Gen X women, we grew up in an era where we were just kind of going with the flow. We didn't ask for the order, right? We thought hard work would get us the promotion. And then you get into your career and you're thinking, how come I'm not where I want to be? So really helping women know, own, articulate, and negotiate their worth is important to me.
Well, it's really funny that you mentioned this part about going with the flow because, I think back to my life and how, I did create my life. I mean, I decided to be a surgeon and all those things. But at the same time, I did the things that I thought I was supposed to do, even though it wasn't true to who I am. I got married. I had a kid. I did all the things that I needed to do. And then as I grew up, I realized, well, I don't want to be married to a man. Okay, no problem. Oh, I want to marry a woman. Wow, that's new. I mean, there's a lot of things that changed for me, but at the same time, it was like life just happened. Life just happened. Life just happened. Life just happened. And then there was a point where I said, well, and this is exactly, I guess I'm your ideal customer because I was like, well, is this all there is? And what happened for me was I had worked so hard to learn surgery and to go and get this job and start my practice. And I just remember sitting there at 40 years old. I was actually 40. And I said, okay, why am I not happy? Is this all there is? And that started my kind of existential crisis. And that was 16 years ago. And I've since retired. I mean, last year in July, I retired from medicine because I don't like what's happening to medicine in America and the whole risk of COVID and just all that stuff. I decided that I was better served, I could serve better by doing what I'm doing now. And it's been quite a journey, because one thing that I think is something we should talk about is the fact that more than 50% of small businesses are started by women in their 50s.
Yes.
And so the women who are, part of the menopause movement, who are, listening to this podcast or watching on YouTube or watching on my website or whatever, these are the women who are going to go and start businesses. And these are the women that need support. Now, as somebody who has started another business in my, late 40s, early 50s, I can say that there are a lot of people out there who will just take your money and not help you. They say they're going to help you and then they don't. So what makes you different?
So that's a great question. I think there's a lot of layers to that. I think what makes me different is that I walk the walk and talk the talk. So I had a huge career just like you, Dr. G. I was in publishing. I was associate publisher of one of the most coveted business-to-business brands called AdAge. The goalpost was to be publisher, and I was about a year away from doing that. And exactly like you, I was 42. I had just lost my dad the year before. My daughter was 5 and struggling in school. And I would go to work every day and think, wow, the goalpost that I wanted is no longer what I want. Mm-hmm. And I panicked because it's all I knew, right? Checked all those boxes. It's all I knew. So I stepped off my career actually not knowing what I wanted to do next. I said, I'm going to give myself this gift of discovery. And from that, I built a very successful business with my business partner. And we've gone through business schools, Marie Forleo and Kendrick Shope, to learn the process of helping people build their business. So it's not just coming in and saying, hey, this is really nice, go off and build your avatar and leave you off to do your thing, but really a hand-holding. And I think that's the key to being a successful business coach is really meeting people where they are. There are some people that will go off and do all the homework and be successful and not need you to be in the trenches with them. And then there are others that need you to be in the trenches. And I think to be successful, you need to figure out where your person is and meet them where they are and really help them understand where the gap is in what their experience is and where they can fill that gap. I don't think enough people focus on that. We try to be experts in everything. It's not realistic.
Yeah, it's really funny you mentioned Marie Forleo, and I think a lot of people start there who want to get online, and I'm going to recommend that the audience not buy that. Don't buy that. And the reason I say that, and it's nothing against Marie. Marie's a great person. She's got a lot of really great information out there in the Marie TV and that sort of thing. 55,000 people have been through B School. And the problem with it is that it's not complete. And the problem I have with most online entrepreneurial type of programs is that it's a piece. It's not the whole thing. If you want to start a business, it's not just, getting Kajabi or whatever your platform is. There's a lot more to it, and there's a lot of strategic stuff. And so that the big promise is, hey, do what I do and you can make $1 million. And it's just not that easy. And I don't want to just discourage anyone from their dream, because if you have a calling, that calling is going to pull you wherever you need to go. And what you want wants you to. But, and there's a huge caveat here, but you don't have to pay somebody $10,000, $20,000 a year to show you what to do. It's just a matter of picking one thing, because remember that beginners complicate and experts simplify. And it's important to be an expert in your own business. And these are just things I wish somebody had told me. I don't know if I would have listened, but I spent a lot of money trying to get help. And the people that were supposed to be helping me, before I knew it, I had a list of 15,000, but we had no money. I was like, if I have a list of 15,000, I should be able to make a living off of it. And when I said that to the people I was paying, they're like, they had no answer. I said,
right.
Where's the offers? Where's the money? And so then I fired them. And I've been through plenty of different, gurus and coaches and courses. And at the end of the day, those guys want your money more than they want anything else. And so I'm not saying anything against you. It's just that my own experience, I've become a little bit jaded. And so there are some people out there who are actually really, have integrity. And if anybody wants to know who I think has integrity, you can send me a DM on Instagram. I'm not going to mention it here in the podcast. And so, but there are people who have integrity, and there are people who are really interested in your well-being and want your success just as much as they want their own. And, at the end of the day, I think it's really important to say that. So how can we move as women who want to build businesses then? How can we move from learning mode to action mode?
Oh, this is such a great question too, because oftentimes, especially for women, so we talked about this before we started recording, Dr. G, is I am a woman who has confidence. I've just had confidence my whole life. I believe that I have the capabilities to figure stuff out, even if I don't know what that looks like. Most women struggle in the confidence area. So they overcompensate by becoming experts in the marketplace. And what their expertise is consuming. And then they'll read books, they'll listen to a million podcasts, they might listen to our podcast, right? They'll take a million courses, and then they won't actually implement anything because it's fear. So one of the things that we always say is just take one piece of action, take one learning that you're listening to and put it into action. As a coach for women in business, it's all about going from women who were so used to staying in their lane. I knew what I was, right? I was a publisher of a magazine. You were a surgeon. We knew exactly where their lane was. Then you become an entrepreneur, and it goes to a 6-lane highway going back and forth really fast. So there's no structure. There's no discipline. Even if you're disciplined, you don't know where to focus. So you don't focus on anything. We just consume because we think that's actually taking action. So our brains work best, and you know this as a doctor, when we can fire up different places in our brains at the same time. So reading something or listening to something only activates one part of our brain. But if we actually start putting action against it and start doing, we fire up different parts of our brain and things stick more. So learn something, take a small step, then evaluate it. It may work, it may not work. Find the evidence, figure that out. That's the part of an entrepreneurial journey that we need to, and have patience. I think a lot of coaches that you talked about that are BS and don't have integrity, they're like, by the end of this, you're going to have a 6-figure business. Oh, if it was that easy, there are no guarantees. There's so many more variables. But what I can tell you, right, is that I'm going to give you every step-by-step tool to build your business, and how long it takes. There are so many variables on when that's going to turn the corner for you. So, but you have to take action. You have to get over that fear. And, I describe fear as kind of a big brother. So when I think about fear, he's always going to be there for you, right? He's always going to be looking out for you. And he's always going to say, wait, watch out, the car's coming. But there are going to be times where he says, don't drive, it's nighttime. And you're going to be like, it's okay, I've got this, right? So you need to understand, like, when your big brother's trying to protect you because there's something really dangerous, or when he's just trying to be overprotective. And if you could think of your fear that way, it gets you to have a better relationship with it and see it as, and humanize it versus an emotional attachment and drag down for you.
Yeah, I like that a lot. There's a book written by an acquaintance I have by the name of Brandon Webb, all about fear. He's a Navy SEAL, and he talked about how, at the very beginning of the book, he talks about how he helped somebody who was deathly afraid of water start to swim. And I will hook up that book in the show notes. I can't remember the name of it, but I'm sure my team will put it in. But one thing you talked about was action, and it's really important for us as people who are wanting to improve our lives, high performers, or even even if you're not starting a business, if what you're doing is just wanting to improve your life, right? And you're reading all these things, and you're reading the self-help or whatever, and then the main thing is to find something that you can take action on. And in surgery, we had this saying. It was see one, do one, teach one. And so, even if
I'm going to take that. Can I take that?
Absolutely.
I love that. That's so smart.
Yeah. So it's basically, you'd watch it get done. And I remember when I was a resident, I was my first year resident, and I went into the operating room in the middle of the night with a surgeon for an incarcerated belly button hernia, and he wouldn't let me do anything. And I said, I can do this. And he says, you watch. I was like, okay. And, then I ended up being a really good surgeon, but it was really interesting to have, the surgeon say to me, you've got to watch this first. And then there's this whole point of patience and allowing time to pass. And, the time's going to pass anyway.
Yeah.
And so we have to really think about what that means to us and whether it matters. And then the third thing I wanted to say is that we have to redefine failure. And I've talked about this before. I talked about it at great length with Ryan Levesque in the What to Think About Before You Start a Business. And it's really important that we look at failure as an opportunity for a lesson rather than calling it a failure and making it be this horrible thing that our identity is wrapped up in. Now, for me as a surgeon, it took a long time for me to redefine what failure means, because as a doctor, failure usually means maiming or death or some adverse outcome that we're trained to, not have happen. And in business, failure means, hey, great, it doesn't work that way. Let's do it another way. And it took me a long time to discover that. How do you teach failure?
So very similar to what you're talking about is really understanding that if you're not failing, it probably means you're staying in your comfort zone, right? So if you when you fail, it's because you're taking a chance on something that you don't know. Right. And we're very much about getting people to acknowledge their accomplishments so that they can overwrite their negativity biases that come up. So a lot of what we train and teach is when you do something and you try something out of the box, write it down on a beautiful colored Post-it note. And when it succeeds, you put it in a really big glass see-through jar of some sort, and it's like your success jar. And when it doesn't work, you figure out how you can pivot and tweak it, and then you tweak it, write it down, and then when it moves to success, because you've tweaked it, you put it in your success jar. Because we as humans are visual beings and visual creatures, and often when we're building a business, we don't see the small wins as successes enough. So we really want to encourage our students, our clients to embrace all of those small wins, because they all move you just a little bit further towards your goal and whatever that goal is. And be very clear on your goals. A lot of people go into business. I work with women, so I was going to say women, but a lot of women go into business and they're like, this is great, I want to build a business. I'm like, well, what's your revenue goal? Oh, I don't know. Well, who do you want to reach? Who's your ultimate audience? I don't know. Who's the client you don't want to work with? Right? So really being specific about what are your goals. If you don't have goals, you have no idea when you get there. And it seems simple, right, Dr. G? But how often do you even talk with people that they don't even know what their goals are because they haven't taken the time. They've let life unfold for them instead of being very strategic and specific about what they want next. And the goalpost doesn't have to be a year out, 2 years out, 5 years out, but you need to know where your destination is. Otherwise you're going to get lost.
Yeah, I love that. It's really important to know where you're going. And the other thing is that I like this idea of the success jar because I like to say that success breeds more motivation. So as you start to see, especially, I use this example of weight loss a lot. And of course, here at the Menopause Movement, we have the 28-day Menopause Belly Challenge that anyone can go and join. And that's just because women in menopause want to lose weight. And so
it's
we
so hard, says me.
It is. Yeah,
Yes.
it is. And so we've made it super affordable, and it's a really great challenge. As long as you act within the first few days, otherwise the price goes up. So the thing is that if you have an all or nothing attitude, you're not gonna reach your goals. If you have this thought that I have to lose 100 pounds, and if I don't lose 5 pounds, in the next week, then I'm a failure. And remember, you can't lose 100 pounds overnight. You can lose 100 pounds over time, and you can decide that you're going to lose that weight, but then you have to actually change your state of being to make that happen. And it's the small things. And actually, what's really interesting is that if all you look for is a 1% improvement week over week, you won't even feel like you're having any changes because 1% doesn't feel like anything. And that's where excellence really can come in and make a huge difference. And John Wooden talked about that. He was the best, probably the winningest basketball coach ever. And he said, you might improve somebody's jump a little bit. So he was the head coach of UCLA. And he said, you might improve their jump just a little bit one week. You might improve their conditioning a little bit the next week. You might improve their ability to dribble the week after that. And then what happens is over time, all of these little wins, they show up as these great, great big changes. But they're just cumulative little changes, and that's all we have to strive for. And it's so important, I think, when in life, not just business. I mean, this applies to anything we want.
It's so true. And the other side of that too is when we say we want to lose 100 pounds, our brains, right? Our subconscious is like, there's no way. You haven't been that skinny since high school. So our limiting beliefs and our mindset and what our subconscious really buys into doesn't exist. So, I don't work with people that lose weight, but when I talk to clients who are still even on a weight loss journey as part of their overall career journey, I always say, all you need to do is think about what you want to do this week. That's it. Because your brain can get behind that 1 pound you want to lose this week, right? And it's the compound effect. And as you win, the dopamine goes off. When you step on that scale, it makes you want to accomplish again. So what can you do to get that dopamine rush every time? Everything we teach, we have something called the 8% rule framework, which is all about what is that big goal you want to accomplish and how do we break it down and break it down again. We call it 8% because there's a statistic that shows that 92% of people who declare a resolution in the beginning of the year never actually see it through. So we want our clients to be part of that 8% club. Like, what do you declare and how are you going to get there? But breaking everything down into smaller chunks and then acknowledging your wins, holding them, creating those new neural pathways so that you have proof and evidence that you can succeed instead of letting that negativity bias and that imposter and that, that voice is like, you're not smart enough, you're not good, right? All those things that come up for women specifically, and you're just like, okay, Heather, my name's Jackie, but I'm an 80s girl, so it's Heather's from Heather. Okay, Heather, I get it. You don't have to be such a mean girl, go away, right? Name her and put her to the side. But it really is about making small movements and really acknowledging them and giving yourself that beautiful gift, because we don't really do that enough. We don't acknowledge what we get done, especially as women who have kids, who have families, right? Maybe they have spouses, they have aging parents, all of these things we just keep doing, big careers, without acknowledging everything we've done. So just give yourself that beautiful gift of acknowledging all the greatness you are as a human.
I love that. Yeah, it's so important. How do you show women how to launch a business and step into midlife? Do you have a elevator pitch about that?
To me, it's all about finding your personal North Star and finding ultimately who you want to help, right? So for you, when you launch this business, you're like, I want to help women who are in menopause because there's no support for what's physically and emotionally and mentally going on for women. Mm-hmm. So you knew exactly who you wanted to help, and you knew that this is my zone of genius. This is what I personally bring to the table that will help me have that discussion and find solutions to this pain point that they have. Yeah. Oftentimes when women start businesses, they're like, oh, I want to be a health coach. Well, why? Because I want to help people. Well, why? Right? So they don't know really ultimately why. They don't know who they want to help. And they don't know how they differentiate themselves. So I always say, in order to launch any business, you have to understand yourself first. We don't spend enough time as humans discovering who we are, especially as women, right? We're like the badge of busy. I always say I'm the shark. If I stop moving, I might die. But how do we hold our energy for ourselves? How do we become more connected with ourselves so that the way we show up in our business is very connected to what is going to ultimately inflate us, not deflate us? And that's a big thing. It's about, and I don't want to say purpose, it's such a heavy word, but it's really about finding your own self and then figuring out what are the next steps to build upon that.
Yeah. No, that's really good. And the thing that, I've been on a personal, I don't know, what do I call it? A spiritual journey, or I had an existential crisis, or some sort of a quest to find out whatever, my purpose or however for years. And, I would say it probably started in about 2010 when the first time I hired a life coach, and I used one of the Jack Canfield coaching programs. And that was the first coach that I hired, and it was structured and it was 20 weeks. And I made some major changes in my life through that. And, what I've discovered over these, past 11, 12 years is that what I want is coming from this higher self, this person that is connected at a deeper level to universal truths. And when I started this, I wasn't even sure about there being any sort of higher power. And I embarked on this spiritual journey that I had been an atheist. So it's been a real big, different life than I expected. But I find that the biggest thing for me in terms of creating success in my business has to do with me letting go of everything I once thought was true.
What a beautiful experience too. And I think it takes, I don't want to say getting to midlife, because a lot of people find it sooner, but I do believe that there comes a point where you're realizing that everything you're chasing isn't really making you happy. And we search for external validation because we don't know how to turn within for validation. Everything that I believe in truly to my core is all about energy. It's about the energy of a higher power or the universe or whatever you believe in. But we as humans don't even hold our own energy enough, right? Where, you get up in the morning, think about most people's routines. You get up in the morning and you get on the computer, or you check your phone, or you're taking care of your kids and making lunch. We don't stop to be unstimulated and hold our own energy. And this small gift that we can give to ourselves, which is waking up in the morning and really connecting with who we are, can give us clarity. I mean, you're a doctor, the tremendous benefits of meditation and how it changes the gray matter in our brains. There's so much benefit, and we have become such a distracted, busy culture that we don't connect to our higher selves, a higher being, or even our inner self. And to be able to do that, I think I've always been on that journey. I was very lucky to grow up in a house where my mom was very much spiritual and energy and mind control, really believing in kind of owning who you are. But I think in my 30s, I lost that for a while because I was so driven, and I forgot that there's more to life than success and reaching that next ring on the, a rung on the ladder. And I think you get back to a place where it becomes this beautiful gift you give to yourself. So I'm so happy you did that journey, and it's never over once you start it. So to that patience point, right? Once you're on that journey, you're like, oh, there's more, and as it all unfolds, it's like heaven unfolding, right? You're like, I didn't see, I had no idea what was in front of me.
Yeah, it's really interesting when we start to let go. For me, as I've started to let go, I was really afraid of, say, building a team and leading a team. I'd had some really bad experiences. And I realized that the reason why I had bad experiences is because it was just pushing me to move into this because I wasn't really living my purpose. And, I didn't like leading surgeons, didn't like it at all. That's a group of people that, everyone wants to be the boss. Surgeons are bosses, so it's been, and it just wasn't, I didn't enjoy it. But I found that leading the team that I have now is, I just feel really honored to be able to be a part of, and give all these people a chance to work and help grow the business, and they all believe in the mission. And so that's been really awesome. Now, you were just talking about this energy plotting, right?
Yes.
And so let's talk a little bit about alignment with our energy and then plotting your day accordingly.
So this is one of the tools that we teach all of our clients, especially entrepreneurs, because we tend as humans to do the things that we love when we feel the greatest, right? So if you think about even your day as an entrepreneur, there are parts of your day or parts of the tasks that you have to do that you absolutely love. And there are parts of what we have to do that we're like, oh my gosh, another spreadsheet. Well, that's me. I'm not a spreadsheet girl. So, we tend to say, okay, I love to create content. I love to be strategic. I love to coach. So I'm going to plot that in my highest energy times. And then what happens is we leave the things we hate for the times where our energy is our lowest. So one of the greatest gifts we can give is to take a look and spend about 2 weeks really understanding your greatest energy times. Now, every 2 hours, you put a little timer on your phone and you check in with yourself. So at 6 a.m., on a scale of 0 to 10, how is my energy? At 8 a.m., at 10 a.m., and what you'll find is there's going to be a natural rhythm in your days and also days of the week where you feel your greatest energy. And in order to enhance our productivity, the goal is then to look at our tasks and then plot them, right? 0 to 10, how do they make me feel? 10, I love creating content, it's a 10. So instead of plotting that in when we feel our best, we're going to plot that in when we feel our lowest, because our love for that task is going to naturally up our energy. And then we plot in the things that we hate, like Excel spreadsheets and finances, into the times of our day where our energy is the highest. Yeah. And what happens is we create this natural rhythm with our energy and with our tasks that enhances our productivity in a way that's 3 or 4 times what it was, and makes us feel more centered as humans, so that we are using our energy to work for us instead of against us. I don't think many people realize that we have these natural energy rhythms. We have times in our day. So for high achievers, what's so interesting, Dr. G, is that Monday mornings are one of their highest energy parts of the week because they're high achievers and they can't wait to get started.
That's true.
But for people who aren't high achievers, they go into Monday and their energy is really low. And so then they start their day and they're trying to start a really heavy task and they're wondering why they can't get over the hump because they're going against their own energy. So if they would just wait until the afternoon after they've ramped up, they would see that it would take them an hour instead of 3 hours. So really understanding how your own energy works to be as productive as you can be. And it's so powerful. It's so much fun because, when you work with clients, right, this from the work that you do. When you see the results, that's what you want, right? It's not about it. Look, we all want to make money. I'm not going to BS you and say like, oh, it's not about them. Of course, we all want to make money.
Yeah, of course. No, listen, like I've been poor. I've been really poor. I've been poor where I didn't even know where my next meal was coming from. I was living in Los Angeles in the 80s, and I had this job where I worked in this people's house with a disabled woman, and sometimes that was the only time I ate. Yeah. And so I just because I'm a doctor, I mean, people think doctors are rich, and doctors are not rich. Doctors suck with finances, and there's a lot of problems. Actually, somebody on my Facebook today said, well, you're a doctor, you should give this away for free. And I kind of got triggered a little bit. And so it took me a long time to write a response. And I basically said, well, we are offering this for free. And then we have the podcast and we have other free offerings. by the way, doctors get paid for work. I do free surgery, or I used to. And what else did I say? And doctors graduate with mountains of debt.
Yes.
At least, at least a mortgage, right? A lot of doctors nowadays are graduating with $500,000 in debt. And that's a lifetime of debt for them because of the way that medicine has gone in America. So it's really frustrating when people say you're a doctor, you should give it away for free.
Agree.
But at the end of the day, the point I'm trying to make is that I've been poor and I've been wealthier, and I find that it's easier to be wealthy. And the reason there's a few things that happen when you can change your relationship with money and start to understand money as energy rather than as a thing to be feared or revered or anything like that. It's just another form of energy. Is that number one, basic needs are taken care of. And so then you can start to move up the Maslow hierarchy. Number two, when you have more money, you have more impact. All right. So it's not necessarily about freedom. Depends on the freedom is such a nebulous thing that we can, define, if you ask 12 people what freedom means, you're going to get 12 different answers. Right. But if your mission is to impact people, right, then the more money you have, the more impact you can make, because, that's the currency. And so I just, whenever somebody says it's not about money or, I just always go back and say, yeah, it is about the money. I mean, we definitely want to make money. I'm not gonna, I'm unapologetic about that, because the other thing is that how hard, this is what else I said in that post was like, if you want a transformation, your transformation is going to start with a transaction. You have to invest in yourself. And you have to believe in yourself enough that you can actually take the action, because how many people really are able to take action and make the changes they want to make without creating some sort of transaction? There's always a transaction involved.
Always. And I think women I know women tend to have a very different relationship with money. I mean, there's a statistic out there that, men will go into an interview and ask what the range of salary is in the first interview, either with HR or with the hiring manager, where women will wait until they get the offer. It's crazy to me. It's crazy. Yeah. So women really, we coach a lot of women who are entrepreneurs, and their relationship with money, I feel uncomfortable charging. I don't know how to ask for money. And it's the money mindset is a really big hiccup for women. We spend a lot of time helping them through that and owning their worth, right?
But there's more to it than that. It's not just the money mindset, it's the patriarchy. And women are taught from a very young age to ask for permission, to realize that they're not as valuable as men. And it's not men's fault. It really isn't. Not now. It's just been done for so long. We're pushing. And I sometimes wonder, I have this dream that we have this egalitarian society, and I think we'll push really hard to, maybe the first female president will help, but, we're still going to have people who take the things that were said in the Bible, written by men 2,000 years ago and translated over all these years to be some truth, like women have to keep their heads covered or have to keep silent in the church, and believe that that's the way that things should be. And so we're always going to have beliefs. And the only thing that's going to change for us is making sure that our beliefs don't keep us back.
Yes.
And man, I'll tell you, when, I just recently had a conversation with a copywriter, and we were going through the copy for one of my pages, and he started talking about his own existential crisis. And he's like, well, and I kind of left him hanging. He's like, well, what do I do about it? And I said, go back and think about every belief that you picked up in childhood and see if it's true. Yeah. He's like, wow, that's really, really good advice. I said, yeah, it's probably worth the price that I paid for this freaking copy.
It's so true. It's all of those things, we take them as our truths, right, into our adulthood. And we think that we do this exercise with clients that we just say, okay, rapid fire. And the question is very simple. It's like, if I'm honest with myself, if I have a lot of money, people will think. And tell us what you think immediately. And 90% of women, what they fill that in is people think, I'm a snob, I'm arrogant, I'm money hungry. Like they have this really crazy reaction, and it's what's embedded in their subconscious. And to me, I always think if I have, the more money I have, the more impact I can make, the more I can give back, the more I can create scholarships in our business, right? How we can build that into our business model. So, but it takes years of unraveling even our own parents' relationships with money, right? In the, if we grew up in the 70s where our parents did well and didn't do well and did well, and we may have a very scarcity mindset where we get money, we spend it because we're afraid that we're not going to get it. We want to just make up for not having money. So there are so many things, and it takes a lot of awareness, right? Awareness is the first element to any change. It takes a lot of awareness to find out what are you thinking and what are your beliefs, and let's just untangle them and find new evidence that can support that money isn't evil. Money is not evil.
Well, the thing that's really interesting about belief, when we start talking about what a belief is and what a mental model is, and I learned this from my mentor, Sri Kumar Rao, and that is that if we start to think about something different, if we want to believe a different belief, we just have to ask for evidence or start looking for evidence that that's true. And most of the time we will. And my story of this is I had a really, really difficult employee that I ended up having to fire, but I had to change my view of this person. And it was basically the view that I decided to take that I eventually found to be true. And I'm very glad for this experience, was that it's helping me to understand what I'm going to look for and how I'm going to feel when it's time to let somebody go.
It's a big learning.
Yeah. No, that was really, really good. And so I've discovered that when somebody's taking up a lot of my headspace and I'm paying them and they're an employee and I'm talking to a lot of people about their attitude and whatnot, that means, oh, that person's not a good fit. They got to go. And it was really hard for me to learn that lesson. And it took a long time. It took many years for me to realize that particular feeling and those particular actions on my part, and obviously the actions of the other person have something to do with it, but at the same time, I don't, business is a benevolent dictatorship. It is not it is not a democracy. And so at the end of the day, I don't have to keep people that I find that when I interact with them, I'm not having fun.
Yes. At this point in our lives, we're doing business. I want to have fun while I'm doing business. I'm with you. If this doesn't become fun, I don't want to do it anymore. And not that it's not hard work and not that there's not a grind to it. There are times, but I want to enjoy it. I got to have fun. I always say you have to like who you surround yourself with. We spend more time in our day with the people we work with. They don't need to be cookie cutters of you, I don't believe, but they need to be additive in your life, right? Yeah. And there's too much negativity in this world to be surrounding yourself with anyone who is negative or who just thinks it can't be done all the time and who wants to be challenging and who wants to complain. It's because they're never changing. They need so much work to change. So only thing you could do is change how you respond to them or what you do next, right?
Right. Yeah, for sure. That's so important. I want to circle back to learning just before we close. And I want to talk about what is active learning? What is the science of active learning?
Well, the science of active learning is engaging more than just the consumption phase, right? So we actually call this a lot of, we had identified a bunch of consumption personalities from hoarders to experts. Like there are people who just want to be experts. There are the perfectionists. There are the hoarders that just want to collect evidence and content and information, but they don't know what to do with it. So really to get into the activation mindset, it's about understanding why am I feeling the need to constantly consume? What is the real thing that's coming up for me? And then how do I activate on all of these different things that I'm learning? So going back to what we talked about before, it's how do I kind of call it, if you've ever seen Legally Blonde, the movie Legally Blonde with Reese Witherspoon, where
maybe, yeah.
Okay, well, there's a scene where she's in a nail salon and she's trying to teach the nail technician how to flirt with the UPS driver that she finds attractive. So she's like, you have to do this thing called the bend and snap. And she bends down and she snaps up with this like sexy pose and her breast sticking out, her hiney sticking out, right? So she's like, bend and snap. So I always say that intake versus taking action is like the bend and snap. You bend, you intake, and you snap, and you take action. So it has to be that cadence of like, learn something, do it. Learn something, do it. And that's how you actively learn, because you're engaging your brain in so many different ways. We as humans forget 78% of what we learn within 24 hours of consuming it, right? How many times have you read a great book? And you're like, this is brilliant. I'm going to put this into my business. And then you walk away and 3 days later, you're like, what did I want to do with that? Because you didn't do anything with it, right? So it's like, how do you take that piece out? What do you do with it immediately? You know, when you listen to podcasts, read self-help books, take courses, you need to do that in 10-page increments. You need to read it 10-page, take something out of it, and actually apply it. And that's how you get into the active learning and activating your brain differently.
I love that. That's really, really good. I think that's super important that if you're going to read a book, let's say maybe like the book Traction, for example, which is a great book on how to get control of your business. And it's a great theory, but you know, in order to make that happen, it's a matter of like going back and reading the book in 10-page increments and then saying, I'm going to take this action. I'm going to take that action. And really, nobody teaches us that, because in school, we're taught how to, let's say, follow a bell. And we're taught how to be a factory worker and take our lunch and those sorts of things. And they don't teach you how to read a business book or any sort of a book and then say, put this into action. And because at the end of the day, they don't want us to be independent thinkers.
They want us to regurgitate, right? That's what they do. They spend the time regurgitating, right? That's what we're taught. So then we go into the business world and we're like, oh, we think we just need to regurgitate stuff. And you realize that does nothing. That does nothing for a business. So, you know, I have a 12-year-old with very severe ADHD and processing disorders and learning disabilities. And the regular school, she's in regular school, but the way they teach doesn't work for her. And I always say, like, let's just take this one piece and put it into action. Let's just take this one piece and break it down. I don't care if you don't understand all of it. I just need you to learn and understand one piece of it so you feel accomplished. And we need to, you know, I don't want to go into a school tangent, but we need to be changing the way we teach. Regurgitation means nothing. Think about you as a surgeon. Could you imagine if we're going to be like, oh, you're going to learn by just reading all these books. Don't ever practice surgery.
Yeah,
it's absurd. Watch this video on how to drive a car. Now go behind the car and just do it. Okay. It's so unrealistic, but we do that in our businesses. We're like, okay, let's just keep reading all these business books and then it will come in, we'll get it. And I'm like, you have to really be thoughtful and strategic about what am I taking out? What am I going to actually take action on? And we have to reprogram the way we learn, because the way we learn we've been brainwashed to do things all the wrong way. And it's going to that independent thinker. It just hurts our future as a society. Yeah, I agree with that. So where can people find you? So they can come on over to The Resting Mind, www.therestingmind.com, which is our website. We also have an incredible Facebook community that we'd love your listeners to join. It's called Just GenX, talking business, career, and life with bold and brave women. Because ladies, we know you're bold, we know you're brave, but you may have lost it for a little while, but we're going to get you back there. So we do lots of live coaching in there. We do lots of giveaways, and the community is so warm. You know this from the Facebook community. There's something magical about a Facebook community, and not because we're 40 plus and we can't be on Instagram, because I'm there too, but there's something incredibly engaging about having a real community of supportive women. And I think as women get into their 40s, I think in their 30s, a lot of times they get competitive. There's that scarcity mindset of who's on top, and they get to the top and they kind of want to a lot of times keep women down, women down. And then they get into their 40s and they understand the power and beauty in having a cohort. And, I encourage you guys that are listening to find your cohort, whatever that is. Who are the wonderful women who make you, when you walk away from them, you feel happier, your energy is up. I'm going to walk away from this interview, Dr. G, and my energy is up. And I hope it's the same for you, because that's what really finding true connections are. You should walk away feeling great. So find your cohort in lots of different places. I think it's so powerful. And we as women need to be doing that. Find places that we can bolster each other.
All right. Well, Jackie, thanks so much for being a part of the menopause movement today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been wonderful.
Did you know that menopause is not a medical condition? Most doctors don't know this either. I like to say that menopause is the privilege of a long life. And to really take hold of our lives in menopause, we have to unlearn what society and the medical establishment has told us about menopause. This is why I've created this brand new course called Understanding Your Hormones and Managing Your Menopause. I want to show you how you can get on top of your menopause right now so that you can start to see it as the best time of your life. Now, this course is valued at $500 and is in the beta testing phase. And we're currently accepting applications for women to test it out for us at no charge in exchange for feedback and testimonials. But the best part is, because you're a podcast listener, you can bypass the application process and go straight to the front of the line. To register right now, simply visit menopausemovement.com/hormones, and we can get started together right now. Remember, you can get started right now at no charge to you in exchange for feedback and testimonials when you go to menopausemovement.com/hormones. And I'll see you inside the course. Thanks so much for being a part of the menopause movement.